Welcome, Danny. It's great to have a few minutes to chat with you.
Thank you for having me.
To get started, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us how you got into composition and how you decided that you wanted to pursue that as part of your musical career.
Sure. From probably age 2 or 3, had demonstrated an interest in music. My mom would sit down and play the piano. Again, she's not a trained musician, never had a piano lesson in her life, but she knew how to read music a little bit. And she would play Christmas songs and holiday themed things around different holidays, Christmas, Easter, things in our household. And I always was just fascinated by the sound. And then I would sit on her lap while she was doing it, and I would try to mimic her hands. So by the time I got a little bit older, my parents were like, maybe he would like to try music lessons. So I started piano at age 5, and I kept with that all through high school, getting very serious about it my junior year, and I enrolled in a pre-college program. My teacher that they assigned me was not only a brilliant piano teacher, but he was also a composer. And that's when I got my first taste of composition because I was starting to exhibit, not, I don't want to call it frustration, just learning other people's music, but I had a desire to not just play other people's music, but to maybe make my own. So that's how I got into composition. And then I ended up going to college for music, starting out with piano and then transitioning into composition. I graduated with a bachelor's in composition, and then I went on to do a master's degree in composition as well.
Fantastic. So you got 2 degrees in composition. What was your goal in getting those degrees? And what challenges did you face after you graduated?
So, my first initial goal, and I must admit it's still a very strong goal of mine, is to compose music for films, TV, and media. I've always been fascinated by the storytelling potential that music has. And I love how, if you say watch a movie or a TV show, you can maybe get an idea of what's going on or about to happen just by the music. And there are bad movies that are almost good because the music is so good. The redeeming power of music for a movie is just incredible. And then you take a really good movie and you give really good music to it, it just makes the experience even better. So I wanted to be a composer for media, but that can be a very challenging field to get into. But I thought I at least stand a chance the better composer I can be. But once I got fully in the midst of academia, especially towards the tail end of my bachelor's degree, I started getting fascinated with the academic side of music and the potential to teach. So the idea of becoming a professor or an educator of some kind started to become a reality for me as well as I became presented with the incredible challenges of trying to break into the movie industry, entertainment industry. And I graduated with the intent of pursuing a doctorate one day, but I took a few years off from music to try to make some money. I ended up becoming an insurance agent. And that few year hiatus became almost 7 years. And I guess at the end of that, that's kind of where I was at whenever our paths crossed. So the challenge, if you wanted me to address that real quick, it's just
Yeah.
I feel in the last 20 years the idea of composition and composition programs and people doing this kind of thing has become very saturated, I feel. I remember even when I started college, there were like 5 people who were considered themselves composers in the program. By the time I graduated, the department had 30 students. And everybody with a Mac computer gets GarageBand and they can doodle around in there and, oh, I'm a composer. So I just feel like a lot of people have the ability to create. AI and technology also has enabled people to almost pass themselves off as legitimate creators, even if they don't have a whole lot of formal study experience. So that kind of, I feel, dilutes the field a little bit.
So do you feel like the competition is the challenge that you're facing?
I feel the competition, yeah, whether it's legitimate or not, there's just a lot of people doing it, and it's hard to stand out when there's just sometimes so many people doing it.
Yeah. And what would it
That's
mean for
just my
you?
perception. I'm not saying I'm right or wrong.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair perception. I think that it's
Yeah.
easy for many of us to feel that way for sure.
Mhm.
What would it mean for your composing to be able to stand out from the crowd like that?
Well, I feel a lot of people try to sound like a select number of people, especially in the media composing genre. I don't want to necessarily throw out names, but there are certain industry titans that get a lot of work, and a lot of people try to model their careers or their sound after that person. And because of the easy availability of software and sample libraries and things, a lot of people can create material that sounds like that and create a demo reel. And you have all these people vying for limited jobs. I feel it's kind of hard to stand out unless you really know somebody. And also another challenge that faces a lot of people, certainly faced me, was the logistical and financial hurdle. A lot of people have to, I don't say you have to move to certain cities, but like Los Angeles or New York are very expensive places to live. And a lot of people move there trying to get a handful of jobs. And you have to find some way of supporting yourself when you're out there, and absurd cost of living. And just those things are hard. And it's hard to network whenever you're fighting just to survive and feed yourself, put a roof over your head too. So those are logistical hurdles and financial hurdles that I and a lot of my friends and colleagues faced over the years too, especially following graduation.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of
Hmm.
sense. Now, over the last couple of years, you actually have had success getting your, from what I understand, not so much film music yet, but a lot of concert works. Can you tell us
Yeah.
a little about that? What are the kinds of opportunities that you're getting with the concert works, and what frameworks did you use to get you there?
Well, so first of all, I have to give a big thank you to you because I feel it was I came across some of your content online and I really liked the things that you were saying and your teaching philosophy and just your music in general that you write's very, very good. So I was at a point, I was coming off almost, like I said, 7 years working in the insurance industry. That started out trying to just make money to support my music career. But then the deeper I got into this business world, the harder it was to leave. You start to get more responsibilities. My lifestyle adjusted around it. You have bills to pay. It's kind of hard to leave a nice paying job when you have one. You're surviving in the world. So it's like, oh, okay. But then some things changed in my life and I wanted to get back to music. I hadn't really written a note in 6 years, which is kind of embarrassing to admit, but it's true. But I was itching to get back into composition. And on a side note, there isn't really once you finish school, there's not a lot of help out there for you after. They almost like send you out into the world like, hey, you're ready to go. You should be ready to just tackle anything you face now. Well, I found your material to be very perfect for me at the time I was at. I needed a little sort of like refresher in certain aspects of composing music and then need that little bit of a confidence boost of just like being in a community of creators again that you've sort of formed through this composer school, wizarding school. And it sort of got me reined in. I didn't know which direction I wanted to go. You had some really good, helpful ideas. I was able to rein myself in and follow sort of some set strategies. And I just started writing and I wrote some pieces and that got my composing back in order. And then what did I do to generate performances? I started tapping into my network of colleagues that I have all around the world, people I went to school with. Some of them are on faculty at universities now. Some of them are playing in orchestras. Some of them have very dynamic freelance careers. And I'm able to start collaborating with these folks. And I'll pay them for their time. We'll record my music together. We'll perform it. And then I'm able to get that up, high quality recordings up on my website and generate some performances that way.
That's fantastic. Can you tell us, are there any particular collaborations or pieces that you're proud of how that turned out?
So I also have been directing a music program at my church, Aspenwall Presbyterian Church. I've been there for this is my 10th year, actually. Even when I was working in insurance, still on the weekends, I would come in and then play the church music. But now that I've rededicated my life and my career to really actively doing music, I've completely revamped the church music program, and I'm doing a lot more. I'm bringing in frequent music guests and collaborators. One of my best friends, he regularly plays with the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra, so it's always a joy to work with him. I have the Carnegie Mellon Flute Studio is one of the finest in the world. Their students are incredible musicians, and I love hiring their flute players and working with them and integrating them into our worship experience. And then also with the church, and then also being in the community that we're in, I formed a community singers group that uses volunteers from our church, as well as we have a sort of a scholarship, student singers scholarship kind of thing, that we are able to bring in some students from local schools and give them an opportunity, and then some folks from the community that want to join as well. And we've sort of formed this great relationship of working with people and making music in the community that's meaningful and uplifting. And that also gives me a vehicle to sometimes get creative and do arrangements or even original compositions.
That's really awesome. It sounds like you've really started to thrive. It sounds like you have a lot of irons in the fire, so to speak.
Hmm.
What have you learned over the last few years going through this process of not writing a note of music for 6 years to now you're writing a lot of music and you're putting together a whole bunch of cool projects?
I'll never get those 6 years back. I kind of wish I didn't take such a long break. Who knows what I did, but I did notice what's interesting is how stylistically I am so different now than I was then. The music I was trying to write when I was in school versus the music I write now. And I think some of that's also shaped by the audience, because when I was in graduate school, very academic. Now, a lot of the stuff that I write, it's more audience friendly music for people in the church, people in the community. So there's a certain, when I say audience friendly, nothing, there are techniques and things that, sure, I know they exist and I wouldn't mind using them, but I don't feel I need to, because I'm trying to tell a very relatable story with a very hummable melody and harmony that somebody can walk away and feel like, yeah, that was really cool, rather than like some of that very more abstract avant-garde music that average people might listen to and think, I didn't get anything out of that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and it seems like it's paying dividends. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened with your piano concerto recently?
Yeah, so over the holidays, I had a little bit of spare time, and it's always been a dream of mine to write a piano concerto because I'm a pianist that's my instrument. So I usually don't like to apply to competitions, or I don't try to write a piece specifically for a competition because I don't feel it's a good use of my time. I would prefer to write a piece with a specific musician or several musicians in mind, people who are friends. I'm like, we're going to perform this on this date. I got to finish it by now, and we do it, and it's performed. We record it. It's a definite done deal. That's what I feel I want to spend my time. But this was a competition in Belgium for World Piano Day, and they wanted a short, so that's kind of nice. I didn't have to write a 45-minute long, Tchaikovsky length Rachmaninoff concerto. No, this is short, so that helped under like 5 minutes, but using cinematic and storytelling kind of vibe. I'm like, that's right up my alley, because my people say my music always tells a story, and that's sort of how I've evolved from trying to go more like, starting to write film music, but then transitioning to academic style music, and then now coming full circle, getting back into that storytelling music again. Yeah, so I wrote a piano concerto to try to document actually my own personal health journey, which has been full of unfortunate some health issues in the last number of years. So the struggle of trying to overcome that, I wanted to channel that energy in a very dramatic piece of music, and I managed to take second prize in the International World Piano Day competition in Belgium.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah,
And
and then I'm working on getting the piece performed locally here. There's a community orchestra. I've spoken with the director, and knock on wood, it looks probable that we're going to have a Pittsburgh premiere of my piece in October.
Cool. That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
One thing's related to that. So you're speaking to the local director.
Hmm.
What's changed from you? Like if you look back over like a few years ago to now, you mentioned that you didn't used to do as much networking and now you're doing more.
Yes.
What changed for you that enabled you to reach out to your local community orchestra, reach out to your former colleagues?
What changed was, to be honest, it was listening to your advice, actually. I kind of feel like an idiot that I didn't think of this on my own because, duh, you're so fortunate, Danny, to know so many amazing musicians around the world. And I'm a nice guy. I get along with everybody everywhere I go. Why didn't I think of trying to utilize these friendships and relationships I had with people from school? But for some reason, over the years, I didn't. And I guess, part of that was the deeper I got into working as an insurance agent, the more of an imposter I felt every time I made an appearance in the music world because, these people they've been working day in and day out trying to build their music careers. And here I am, maybe to their eyes, I looked like I bailed on music and now I'm like, I sold out and now I'm selling life insurance and stuff and, making money and going on vacations and living like a king, is like, oh, look, working hard, living the life, corporate life, and they're just like starving artists still. But fortunately, a lot of them aren't starving artists anymore. Some of them have, they're in prestigious symphony orchestras, they're on faculties at universities, and I did learn people they don't care what you do. They understand it's a weird world we live in. You got to find a way to survive. In fact, I actually gained a lot of respect from people. They're like, "Wow, I can't believe you managed to actually do that. You had a whole second career and now you're back in music." So, it worked out. Everybody is fine. I'm getting along with them but it was you and the way you just rationally described how to go about doing that, it gave me the confidence to actually just do it. And I did. And here I am. I have reconnected with so many amazing people. It's
Well,
wonderful.
well, congratulations to you because you did the work. But I'm
Yeah,
also
I mean, I did the work, but I'll give you credit. You inspired me to take those steps.
thank
So I
you.
appreciate that.
Well, you're welcome. Were there any particular tools or frameworks that you found most helpful?
Yeah, you broke it down almost into like a like a scientific like you put a lot of thought into it like about the whole psychology of human interactions and how to construct email correspondence in a way that you can come across as, initiating contact without being annoying or being weird or being like overly aggressive. I know some people are very sensitive about, oh, I shouldn't reach out to this person because they're so important. Well, how are things going to happen if you don't at least talk to somebody? But there's certainly an appropriate way to go about talking to them, and certainly in a way you can highlight your strengths and the things that you do well without overselling yourself too. And I think you put those in a very clear, concise way that I think a lot of people can relate to. And it helped me do it in a way that avoided making some mistakes that could have been a big turnoff to some people. So I'm very grateful for how you laid those things out and I was able to apply it and I was fortunate to get some success from it.
Fantastic. I'm thrilled for the success that you've gotten, and I hope that you have continued success as you do that. So the program that you're mentioning, this is the Career Success Accelerator. It's a
Yes.
online course that, as you mentioned, breaks things down, walks people through the whole process of getting
Mhm.
commissions or performances of their work. Who would you recommend that program to?
I would recommend it, I mean, to anybody that's serious about trying to take the next step in their composing career if they're starting out. So, especially if you're in school, finishing school, or just out of school, this can be a nice bonus, boost, whatever you want to call it, because a lot of academic programs, I feel, unfortunately, do not set their composition students up for success in the real world. They might teach you a lot of techniques, they might get you performances while you're in school, but once you're out of school, you're kind of like on your own and might not know where to go next. So I feel something like this can fill in that void, that gap of knowledge that some people might leave school with. And also anybody like me that say they took a hiatus from music and they're looking to get back into it, getting back into composition, and they don't know where to begin. It can be a great tool to sort of, again, sort of just rein you in and channel you in a focused direction. That's what it did for me.
I'm really glad
Yeah.
that it's been so helpful for you.
But
Uh,
seriously, like so many academic programs, I feel they do not prepare the average music student, especially the average composition student, for success in the world. They might teach them a lot of skills, a lot of theory. And yeah, when you're in school, you might get a lot of performance opportunities with the school ensembles and things. But once they send you out into the world, they give you your diploma, it's like, that's it. And they haven't really told you what to do or how to go about it. You just think, oh, I'm good. I know what I'm doing. I can write, but now what? And I feel your program does a good job of addressing that now what and giving people a way of focusing themselves in the right direction rather than like running in circles, chasing their tail, whatever you want to call it, trying to, make something happen from nothing.
well, thank you. So I'm curious, last question that I have for you is, so
Sure.
we've talked about a lot of the composing stuff that you've done over the last few years, the collaborations, the piano concerto. We've talked about how you're able to get some of those
hmm
things. What are you working on next?
So what am I working on next? So to be honest, I just finished up a number of big projects. One was a saxophone quartet. I finally got around to doing a film score. I've gotten back into the media thing. So I was able to connect with folks who there's a thing in a lot of cities. It's called the 48-hour film festival, and many different metropolitan areas have this where over a course of a weekend, teams will make a short movie in 48 hours. They don't even know what the theme is going to be, but they're told Friday night at 7 o'clock, you're going to do a mystery or you're going to do a comedy or whatever it is. And then the team has to make their movie in 48 hours. And it's always nice if you can have music. So I was able to do music for a film. And supposedly, from what I heard from the screenings this weekend, people loved the music. And it sounds like that's going to get me in on many more projects in the future. A lot of people were asking, how do they get in touch with me? So they liked my music. But, the industry's hard to get into, but one way that I'm finding is if you can work in small markets, in even every market, there's creators. And in this era that we live in, there are there's more content creation than ever before. When you look at all, it's not just movies and TV, but TV has extended to streaming platforms. I'm not going to say any names, 'cause I don't know if we're allowed to say names on this, but we know the big names. Streaming platforms. Every major network has their own additional streaming platform with exclusive shows and content on that. And then even just on the internet itself, people make videos and upload them to various sites for entertainment purposes. Everybody has content now. Everybody wants to be an influencer, and all these people need some kind of sound to boost the quality of their product. So if you ask me what my next project is or goal, I'm really trying to work more in getting, now that I've had some success in doing things for content creators and filmmakers, I'm trying to build off of that. And I have a couple of irons in the fire, some folks that I've met through some of these local organizations, people that do advertising and content creation for local businesses. And
Oh, fantastic.
yeah, and I'm hoping to channel that into some jobs and projects. And as I head into the summer months, I'm going to continue to have music guests at the church. So usually most times when I have a special music guest, I try to either write something original for us to play, or I'll whip out something I've written in the past that uses that instrument. So I'm not it's a shame at the time of this interview, I'm not working on any one specific project, but I just wrapped up a bunch of things. I'm taking a few weeks to just, do some other things. My dad just had surgery, so I'm helping him with that, recover. And then actually, I had a world premiere in Florida this past weekend of a piece I wrote 2 years ago.
Well, congratulations on the premiere. Yeah, no, I mean, even if you're not working on anything right now at the moment, it sounds like you have a lot of great stuff going on. So,
Hmm.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Do you have any last thoughts or comments that you want to share with people about your journey as a composer?
Yes, especially in this time that we live in, I don't feel there's any one true way, like you got to do this, you got to do that, and then you got to do that. I think a lot of people have the idea of like, oh, you got to learn an instrument, and then you got to go to school, and then you got to get a master's degree, and then you got to get a doctor, and then you're going to start getting commissions, and you got to do that. It can be a very roundabout way, kind of like me. I had that 6 to 7 year break in the middle. I didn't even write a note. How can I call myself a composer? But I obviously had the skills. I just wasn't using them. And it's not like I forgot how to write music in that time. I just wasn't writing music. And then once I got back into it and focused, I started writing. And now that I'm doing it with regularity, it actually gets easier and easier, I feel, especially if you're in a lull and you don't know where to begin. It can feel daunting. The blank page of nothing but rests, on or nothingness can be very intimidating. But once you get going, I found that I just, I just get going and I just keep going. And it feels so good to be in that zone when you're just being creative and writing and it's on to the next thing. And then I was actually at a point where I had too many ideas going at once. And I'm like, okay, just focus on one of these things. Because I was trying to write four things at once and just that just, I don't recommend doing that. At least I got to focus on sort of one or two things at a time.
Yeah, well, I'm the same way.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again for visiting
Sure.
us with us today, Danny. Really appreciate it. And if you're a composer who's also looking at getting your music performed and commissioned like Danny, be sure to check out composerschool.com/incubator. That's composersschool.com/incubator, and you can learn more about that program that Danny took to help him get more commissions and performances.
Yeah. I totally recommend it because, again, regardless of where you're at in your music career, whether you're a student or you've been doing this for a long time, I feel we as learners should always be learning something, even if we're hearing the same thing that we know very well, but explained in a different way by somebody, that can be helpful sometimes. And I found that Joseph's teaching style is very encompassing a lot of different things, ties in a lot of things I've learned before, but also explains it in a way that's I feel fresh and it just really connected with me. And I hope it connects with you as well. And I hope it helps spur you to new creative heights.
Thank you, Danny. I hope so too. Thanks again for meeting with us, and take care, and we'll see you later.
Thank you.